Hi, and welcome to Mother's Quest, a podcast for moms like me ready to live our own truly epic life. I'm Julie Neal, a life and leadership coach, community builder, writer, and mom to two high-energy boys who challenge me to grow into my best self. I'll be right there. Where was I? In the months leading up to a big milestone birthday, I decided it was time to stop sidelining my dreams and become the hero of my own journey. I knew I didn't want to do it alone, so I created this podcast to learn from other moms further ahead on their quest, so their words of wisdom and lessons learned could help light the way for mine. I created this podcast for myself, but I hope you'll come along with me and find some treasures of your own. Hi, Mother's Quest listeners. I want to start by saying thank you for coming along with me on these conversations. I can't believe that I'm only a few episodes away from my 12-episode milestone. Each one has already helped me on my quest, and I love hearing about the impact the podcast is having on you. If you haven't yet joined the Facebook group, I encourage you to visit mothersquest.com and follow the link to join there. There's a supportive, growing community forming, and I would love for you to be part of it. In episode number 9, I'm excited to share a deeply personal and reflective conversation with Amber Lilyestrom, a transformational branding and business strategist, writer, speaker, and host of the Soul Fueled CEO podcast. Amber has also been a coach and champion for me as I've created Mother's Quest and leads a community of Soul Fueled CEOs that has become an important source of support. From the moment she answers my first question, you'll experience how Amber brings this combination of simultaneous vulnerability and crystal clarity. She brings these gifts along with her own trial and error experiences as an entrepreneur and a mom herself to help visionaries, leaders, and what she calls disruptivators turn their passions into heart-centered brands and thriving businesses. It was actually the birth of her daughter and becoming a mother that caused her to proactively design her life and business after working for 10 years in collegiate athletics marketing for her alma mater, the University of New Hampshire. And it's her desire to seize adventures that led her to become Mrs. New Hampshire 2016, an honor that allows her to support a cause that's deeply personal. In our conversation, Amber shares how speaking our truth allows us to live joy-filled lives. She opens up about her traumatic experience as a childhood survivor of sexual abuse, how that event shaped her relationship with her mother, and how it also shaped her own journey in motherhood and business. I loved hearing about how Amber lives her epic life by coming home to herself and therefore coming home to the ones she loves. I left the conversation grounded, ready to let go of other people's judgment, and inspired to consciously design my life. I'm Julie Neal, and this is Mother's Quest. So Amber, welcome to the Mother's Quest podcast, episode 9. I've been wanting to have you on the podcast since I even conceived of it, so it's so exciting to be at this moment.
It's such a beautiful moment, Julie, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so honored to be here today.
So before I came in this morning to do the interview, I was reflecting on my connection with you. And I shared in episode 1 with Navjeet that when I came up with this idea for Mother's Quest and decided I'm living my epic life, she was the first person who was a coach who I talked to about this. And I think that you were number 2. I distinctly remember having that conversation with you. I was about to go into another group called the Power Circle that I had just signed up for through Emerging Women, which became an amazing support for me during this time. And you were there to hear me share my hopes and my dreams and to immediately affirm that I could make this happen. So I have so much gratitude for you believing in me from the moment I had this thought.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's been beautiful to watch it all come to life.
So it feels incredibly decadent to have a whole hour to delve into these topics with you because you are an incredibly thoughtful mom and you also have a huge mission for what you want to accomplish in the world. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about how you approach both of these things with so much integrity, always staying grounded and rooted in what you know is most important to you. So let's jump in. The first question I like to start with is to hear a little bit more about your life as a child and what impact your mother had in shaping who you are today.
Well, this one, Julie, you just get us right at the start. The most difficult and powerful question on this entire list, and this is number one. So, thank you for starting here. And when I was reflecting on how I wanted to answer this question, a lot of emotion came up, and I think what's really profound in my story is that my mother was an entrepreneur, and she had her own business when I was very young. She was a photographer. And she was very passionate about her work. She had been published in Powder magazine, and she was just going for it. And so I think that clearly the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And she always just kind of lived in this way of, knowing that she wanted to do something and then just going forth and doing it and trying it. What was most challenging at the beginning of my story was that I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, an extended family member, childcare situation. And this is the hardest part, because the reality is that my mother's work required me to be in childcare. And then this is where this went down. Wow. And so it's hard for me to even grapple with the depth of that pain. And that's very emotional for me to talk about. But what's beautiful through that is that my mother made a choice, and she chose me, and she sold her business.
Wow.
And it was not even a question. It was not even a question. And she was with me and worked with me through all the things that needed to happen, to protect me and to make sure that I had closure. And this is a big one.
I feel really honored that you are comfortable sharing about this.
Yeah, well, it's, I think, Julie, a big part of my work is that we have to tell the truth. And if we can't tell ourselves the truth, and we can't get really clear and courageous around that, then we're going to be carrying around a suitcase of pain and avoidance and fear for the rest of our lives. And so I've had to do the necessary hard work around this. My mother has too. We've had to do it together. And there's no coincidence that I am an entrepreneur who works from home and is a full-time child care person for my daughter. I'm here with my daughter every day. And I'm not saying that in any other way than just really reveling in the profound gratitude and grace that I have for all of it, for witnessing my mom's struggle throughout my life, for reflecting on it with her, for courageously having those conversations, and then being able to consciously choose when I became a mom how I wanted to do this. And then also having my mom's full blessing in the process, in her full understanding, of these choices that I've made. So it's really moving, and it's hard, and emotion is part of it. It's like, we have to be able to cry these tears. We have to be able to share it and have this conversation, because my life could have gone a lot of different ways, having that be truly one of my earliest memories. But the reality is my mom never abandoned me, and she stuck with me, and she had to face her own demons and her own heartbreak over and over and over and over again. Also, the piece around losing the business that she was so passionate about, having to give that away. And it's not something that she would ever change. We talked about that. We all the time. It's, that was a decision I had to make, and I would make it, over and over and over again for my daughter. So some of the words that come up that really characterize my mom are courageous, fierce, just like Mama Lion status, brave, loving, devoted.
So I'm feeling emotional and teary myself as I'm listening to you and really feeling the depth of the love you have for your mom and all that you've both been through. And I'm also struck by all those words you just shared would be words I would use to define you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So I have a feeling, I know that this, what you went through as a child is something a cause that you're deeply committed to. And I hope as we get through the interview, you'll have an opportunity to talk about what you've done to share and help others from your experience. But I want to move now before we get into talking about your epic life and the way that you approach each of those guideposts of an epic life, I've been thinking about how many of us have what I call a spark moment or series of moments that are pivotal in shifting how we choose to live our life. And from the things you've shared with me through your amazing blog posts, and you also do these Facebook Lives that I get so much from, and from listening to your podcast, I've heard some of these moments, and I think that people listening could get a lot from it. And in this moment, I know I will take something deeper from hearing them. What do you feel like was your spark moment or moments that have brought you to how you're living your life now?
So I think the easy one is obviously becoming a mom. And I've shared at length, and I won't get into the depth of that whole story right now, but when Ani was born, I had a near-death experience and stopped breathing on the operating room table. And in that moment, I went through my own spiritual experience, and I had an out-of-body moment. I saw my husband and my parents, and it moved from this feeling of really intense rage and frustration at what I had not yet accomplished in my life, all the things I really, really wanted to be doing. And I had known that for a long, long time, for as long as I've been here, if I'm honest. And I was really just sort of sidestepping my goals and living in this very confined way, making a big impact, but not, it wasn't in a straight line. And so here I am laying on an operating room table. I'm strapped down. I cannot breathe. And I blacked out, and I'm in this in-between space. And I'm realizing that there's a chance I may not walk out of this room. This might be it. And what transcended from that feeling of rage and frustration and that sort of entrapment that was really my own creation in so many ways, that's how I was framing it out of myself, moved into this place of deep gratitude, love, and surrender. And the recognition that I had received so much love in my life, and my life was so beautiful. And here I am now bringing forth this amazing child into the world that I may not get to meet, but she is love. She is a miracle. And in that moment of surrender, I could breathe again. And I was reborn, really, truly. It was this new awakening. And I left that room changed. And now I had this little girl in my arms who really, in so many ways, reminds me of my inner child. And the me that, had all these big dreams and all of these things that I wanted to do in my life, and had known from a very young age, and also knew at a young age that I did not face intense adversity at such a young age by accident. I knew that there was something bigger. And so it was just sort of this culmination of, okay, it's time now. And this gift that our children give us is that they bring time into focus in a way that we can't understand until they're here. And so within, a short period of time thereafter, really within 8 months of Ani's birth, I was launching a business and walking away from a very successful career in collegiate athletics and going for it with, no guarantees at all. And, but just this deep faith in knowing that this is what I was put here to do, and that this was what was going to help me be the best version of me for the people that I love and the people that I really wanted to serve. while I was here.
It's an amazing story. I want to do a quick shout out to another member of our group who you work with, Whitney Lang. I was listening this morning to her new podcast, the Mighty Mommy podcast, and you told the story about what happened at Ani's birth in much more detail. And it really is incredible. So I'll make sure that I include a link to Whitney's podcast, and anybody that wants to go into more detail and hear that story can listen in there.
Great.
And I think this is a good transition, actually, to moving into what I call the guideposts of living an epic life, where we are the hero of our journey and the author of our story, which are the themes I hear running through how you talk about your life all the time. And the first part of that is E, which stands for engaged mindfully with our children. And I think the choice that you made when you had that moment was to be as fully present for your daughter and to, be there to experience her growing and her transformation, and then allow that to help you transform and continue to grow. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you approach that engaging mindfully with your daughter, Ani.
Yeah, I think that it really comes down to alignment and how we are living our lives in the most aligned state possible. And what I mean by that is by living in a way that feels joy-filled, that feels fulfilled, that we are on the mission, the bigger mission of our life journeys. And especially when we have clarity around what it is we want to be doing, even if it's not down to the specifics of, I want to be a business and branding coach, but I know I want to be writing content that inspires people and allows me to fully express myself. I know that I want to, move out of the neighborhood that has no trees and move to one that is surrounded by trees and actually on water. I want to get out of the relationship that is not the right one for me and open to what's possible. It's so living in that bigger state of alignment. And then I think the next piece is consciously choosing to engage mindfully with our children. And so it's really easy to go from, okay, I made a career change, but with that comes the same baggage that I was dealing with in the old job. There's just different conditions around it, but anxiety and pressure and feeling like somehow my life doesn't belong to me. All those very basic things that a lot of us grapple with are going to follow us around like a shadow until we turn around and decide to face them. So I have very consciously committed to my own work, to cracking into the things that challenge me deeply on an emotional level, that hold me back, that make me feel like being present with my daughter isn't the biggest priority, because sometimes that happens. I have things to do. I have to tend to this. I have to grow this business like that. Just, when you speak in that voice that you are entering the danger zone. And at least I know that for myself. And so it is a practice of being where my feet are, being slow about it, and consciously choosing to plug into my daughter, into where she is and what's going on with her, and having very intimate conversations about things with her and playing with her, and forcing myself sometimes, even when I don't want to. And let's be real. Sometimes we don't want to sit on the floor and play with ponies. We want to go look at Instagram, Yeah. And just giving myself the opportunity to have that desire, and also saying, let's just be right here right now and let's play with her. And maybe I don't have to sit on the floor, but I can sit there and watch her, or I can read a book and be with her. Or, it's I think that it's consciously choosing to be with my daughter and also with myself at the same time.
Oh, I love that. And I've heard you talk about being where your feet are. Mm-hmm. It's such a great visual for being present. Mm-hmm. I know that there are a lot of things that can sometimes pull you because you feel so passionate about the work that you do in the world. And so the P in EPIC stands for passionate and purposeful, making a difference beyond your family. Tell us more about the way in which you are doing that.
Well, I think I'm doing it right now. I think having the courage to have the hard conversations. I wrote down the words to speak my truth, to lead with love, and to pursue my dream, even when I don't know how to do that, even when it feels really scary because I've never done that before. And so the impact is just, Julie, it's like, I used to think it was, okay, I want to be on big stages and I want to write all these books and I want to like do all these things. And though that's great. And those things are happening and they are unfurling, but they're not what matters. That's just a condition around, ways in which you can share your message in a bigger, broader way, but it takes time to get there. And I am just really enjoying the journey. And just like a child learns how to walk, I'm learning how to walk and run and grow inside of my business. And I don't want to fly through that, just like I don't want my daughter's childhood to fly away either, and that's why I chose to be home with her, because I really wanted to be there for those moments. I didn't want to regret missing the most important moments of my life, which are seeing my child grow up, being present for her first steps and her first words, and those little afternoons on the back porch, in the sunshine with her little sun hat on, playing in the baby pool. Those are the moments that they're so small and they're so huge all at once. So I just think that, by having the courage to live that life and to tell both sides of the story, and to recognize that I'm not competing with anyone or racing against anyone, I think that's the way that I make the biggest impact.
And share a little bit about the vehicles that you have created so consciously that are the way in which you're speaking your truth.
Thanks. So the podcast, which is called the Soul Fueled CEO, and in my business, so over at my website, amberlilyestrom.com. And I think that the overarching mission of my business, it's really about helping women come home to themselves, come home to who they really are. And in doing so, the beautiful byproduct of that is that they get to come home to the people they love the most. Because when we are living our authentic truth, when we are living in a faith-filled life, and I mean that in any realm of spirituality, and I mean that just having trust in the higher purpose and path that you are on, having belief that extends beyond just you right here, and trusting that, things are going to unfurl in the way that you want them to. I believe in the law of attraction. I live it, and I think that, I really speak to that inside of the soul fueled branding and business coaching that I do. It really is life coaching when it comes down to it, but helping women who have messages and who want to share those messages with the world and just don't know how to do it. And what I have witnessed myself, and then obviously many, many, many times over with women that I have coached at this point and helped launch businesses and transform lives and come home to their babies in the process, is that everything changes. Our health improves, our marriages improve, our self-care improves. All of that stuff gets better. Our finances get better. When we are aligned with who we really are and we serve from that place, everything shifts.
And these are messages that I've been learning a lot from you, because I've chosen to be part of this special community you've created. It's called the Soul Fueled CEO Academy, but it really is a community. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what is most important to you and how you work with people like me who have a dream of something they want to create?
Yeah. I think that, in speaking in our experience together, Julie, your story is not necessarily unique to you. I have this background. I've worked really hard. Have all this education, all this experience, and I'm a mom and I want to do this differently. And I don't know how. I know that there's a way to do it, but it feels really overwhelming. And the demons live inside of us, right? And when I think one of the most powerful methods of personal development is entrepreneurship, is launching your own business, right? Because you are going to face all of it. It's going to come up. It's going to come up at 10 at night once the kids are in bed and you are just trying to update that website. You're trying to get it live and you don't know how. and you just feel like the smallest person on the planet and like the only one who doesn't get it. And so I really wanted to create a community where you're not alone and you can write the SOS at 10 o'clock and there are going to be women, not all moms, but all of us have that nurturing spirit in this group, right? So not everybody's a mom in there, but there are a lot of moms, and we all really want to be intentional and obviously coming from a soul-based perspective in the work that we're doing in the world. Where our skills are not necessarily always going to be technical in nature, yet we need the technical in order to be successful. And so I just feel like I'm just like wrapping my arms around these women who are former versions of me in many ways and saying, you know, we can do this. We can do hard things. Your message matters. It's important. Let's find a way. Let's do the necessary hard work. Let's get it out there in the world. And I believe in you. And I really do. You know, I am just so inspired by the brave and beautiful messages that the women that come across my path and that I get to do this life journey with bring, and how much expansion I get to experience as a result of hearing, you know, the way that you see the world. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
It does. And actually it's starting to move into how you support people like me to invest in ourselves. And a lot of ways it begins with how we think and feel. And I want to hear more how you invest in yourself. But before we move off of the impact that you're having in the world, I think it's worth talking about your role as Mrs. New Hampshire and what that has afforded you in terms of your ability to make a difference about the cause of childhood abuse.
Yeah. So that was an interesting little challenge that I had a friend that said, I think this would be really great for you. And I just said, you know, I was really taking myself too seriously around it and thinking, this is silly. People are going to judge me. I shouldn't do this, blah, 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 blah. And then I just thought, you know what, Amber, life is supposed to be fun. And this could be a really cool opportunity for you to serve in an even bigger way. And so I went into that, you know, never having done this before, had really great support from amazing friends, and just stepped on stage and just decided to just have fun, you know, and just really be myself. And I promised myself that I would be me. I wouldn't abandon myself in the process. I wouldn't try to be anyone else. And then, you know, I won. So that was really cool. And then I got to go to Mrs. America and meet incredible women, incredible, powerful, passionate women from all over the country that are doing beautiful and important work. And many of us all, obviously, a big part of it is doing nonprofit work and supporting causes that are really important to us personally. And so I'm supporting an organization called Haven, New Hampshire, which supports the recovery and prevention of sexual and domestic violence. And I had the opportunity back in November to stand on stage and share my story. And in that room, I made a donation from the stage, which was just really cool because it was a full circle moment of a portion of the proceeds of every member who joins the Soul Fueled CEO Academy goes directly to support causes that are important to us. And so that donation was made on behalf of the Academy members. And subsequently, so I made a $2,000 donation from the stage. And from there, we ended up raising almost $15,000 that night just at the event. And the feedback that I got from people was really, really, really profound and powerful. One story being, and this is a heartbreaking story, but a mother and a father who came over to me and said, our daughter was sexually abused, and we didn't find out until she was 25 when she committed suicide. And we just held each other and they said, please don't stop telling your story, because there are so many people that are living their life with this pain of what happened to them and what was taken from them, and they don't know how to come out of it. And I lived that way for a long time. not sharing this story, carrying it around like it was this horrible thing, that was somehow my fault. And having the courage to share this story publicly, I have found has made a huge impact on others' lives in a really beautiful way. And of course, obviously being able to raise money to support an important organization is just icing on the cake. So that has been a cool portal that if you had asked me over a year ago, even a year ago from now, that this was going to happen, I would have no idea, because I didn't necessarily decide to do it until like 5 weeks before. So yeah, that's the Mrs. New Hampshire story.
I loved just, being a fly on the wall and, being able to hear you reflect on that whole experience. And you really did go into the Mrs. New Hampshire, just to have fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then surprise yourself by winning. And then a few weeks later, you were in the midst of this Mrs. America pageant. And
yeah.
I'm sure it was
wild. It was really wild. And not part of the strategic plan for 2016, but again, the best things I think usually are not. And so being open to what's next. And here's the thing, Ani and Ben came, and Ani, we call Las Vegas Bubble City. I don't know why, but she calls it Bubble City. And she had the best time, and she got to go on the monorail and see all of these cool things and animals. And when we say, where do you want to go? Would you want to ever go on another trip? And she always says, I want to go back to Las Vegas. So it was really special to me that my family got to be a part of that whole experience with me.
So what did it take in terms of how you invest in yourself and how you think about yourself and the support that you get to take on a challenge like that, or any of the other things that I know that you've put your whole self and heart into? How do you approach that I in EPIC, investing in yourself?
Yeah. This is probably the hardest one for us as moms, I think, in a lot of ways, because it's really easy to get caught up in the swirl of all the things that need to be done. And when you look at the list of what needs to be done, most of the time, the stuff that's on that list is for someone else. It's for your children, it's for your partner, it's for your clients, it's for your pets. I mean, it's for everybody but you. And that certainly has been a challenge for me. But I know that, and I heard Genji say this, it's that when mama's not okay, nobody else is okay. And I know that I absolutely positively need to move my body. That might mean, like today, dropping Ani off at preschool, sprinting back here, getting on a coaching call, drinking my shake while I was on the call, and then having a quick call after that with another client, and then going for a run walk out in the 25-degree weather here in New Hampshire. And that's it, I have to move my body, and then coming back here and doing the errands and picking her up and then sprinting back to get on this call. And it's kind of wild, but as long as I'm weaving in intentional actions for myself, I'm waking up early to read a little bit and maybe meditate. If it's feeling like it's a good day for that, which every day I'll say to everybody, every day is a good day to meditate, even when you don't think it is. I think just really recognizing that to be my best self, I have to do these things. Otherwise, I don't feel good. I have to write. I have to read. I have to have space and breathe in some God air by myself. And that's really the basic equation. And then of course, eat well, and take care of myself in that way. Also give myself a break. So right now there's a pile of dishes in the sink, and it's not a big deal, right? The house isn't going to burn down because there are dishes that need to be washed. The house might if I don't get out and move my body. So I think it's about prioritizing. I also do have a coach that I recently hired. I have an awesome therapist that I meet with probably, I would say every other month we have a session virtually. And it's just, one of those things where I'm thinking about something. I like to call the things that I think up at times like, I hit a tripwire. There's something that just came up. There's an emotional tripwire that I just hit, and that's kind of like code for I need a session. And I have amazing friends. I have an amazing support network of soul sisters.
One of the great gifts I think you've given me as I've been on this journey with Mother's Quest is to pay attention to those moments when I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling inspired. I'm feeling depleted. And rather than trying to push through, actually stopping and doing just something that feels good to me in the moment. And I remember distinctly I was having a really hard time right before the launch of the podcast. And I think I posted in our group looking for some support. And you were like, get off the computer, take care of yourself. And I got into bed under the covers. I asked my husband to take care of the kids. And I think I rented Bridget Jones' Diary. And I just spent the evening in bed, chilling out, letting myself escape a little bit and just refill the tank. And it was part of what moved me through that rough, what felt like a rough patch.
You know, what's interesting, Julie, is that I think so many of us, because I say this a lot, I'm a big Abraham Hicks fan and student. In fact, back in May of last year, I actually was in the hot seat with Abraham. So for those of you who know who Abraham Hicks is, you know what that means. And it was an intense and beautiful experience. And
so for those who don't know what Abraham Hicks is, how would you explain it in a way that would not sound totally crazy?
Totally crazy. Okay, so Abraham Hicks is a collection of spirits who are being, and I'm going to use the word channeled, even though this is not the word that Abraham prefers, by a woman named Esther Hicks. She can tap into infinite intelligence. We'll just call it that. And she speaks from that persona, that place, at these meetings, these personal development meetings. And Abraham has millions of followers all over the world. But it is very much a woman named Esther Hicks who is speaking, the human body that is speaking the voice of Abraham, these spirits, this collection of spirits. So I know it probably sounds a little bit weird, but I encourage you guys to just go online and Google if at all you're interested and not totally wigged out about it. And there's just so much there. And so the focus around a lot of what Abraham talks about is feel good first. So make the priority of your life feeling good, and then do all the other stuff. So don't play with your kids if you don't feel good. Feel good first, right? And then they say all the time, but play with your kids all the time. To say, a person will say, I don't really enjoy playing with my children. I say, well, it's because you don't feel good. So get yourself in a state of feeling great, and then go play with your kids and play with your kids all the time. So you get what I'm saying. Feel good all the time. We get to choose how we feel every minute of every day. We choose struggle, we choose bondage, or we choose freedom. And so I think that what came to me when you talked about your experience in the time in which you were feeling like you were stuck around the launch energetically is that we are so accustomed to not feeling good. We are used to the struggle. In fact, we're more comfortable with that than we are with feeling good. When we feel good, a lot of us look over our shoulder like, what's going on here? What's wrong? What am I not getting done right now? What did I forget about? And so a big part of what I challenge my clients to do is, hey, spend 24 hours doing only what you want. Put down the pen, put down the to-do list, do whatever you want. And you would be probably not surprised to see the shocked faces of the women that I tell to do that to. And they think, but I don't know how to do that. What do you mean, do whatever I want? And that's the sure sign that if that question makes you nervous, then that's the first thing you need to be doing, is giving yourself permission to do whatever it is you want and reclaiming this brilliant, beautiful life that belongs to you and honoring it all the way. Because here's what, when you do that, you are going to be the best version of you for the people that you love. You're going to be the mother you want to be. You're going to be the mother that goes to the playground. And instead of standing on the sidelines talking, it's getting on the swings with your kid because you feel awesome.
Yes, I love it. We're going to move to the C in that book about community, which you started to allude to. But a question that popped into my mind as you were talking that I really want to ask you, it's related to judgment. So, you mentioned the Mrs. New Hampshire and Mrs. America pageant, and that you're worried about what would people think of you. And I'm assuming that you had thoughts that I could admit to having too about what does it mean to be in a beauty pageant, and maybe that not being aligned with the things you feel like you stand for. And then you just talked about Abraham, and I would say for most people, what you described sounds, outlandish. They may not believe that. How do you approach handling either your own or other people's potential judgment and not allowing that to stop you from things that you have found have deeply enriched your life?
Well, other people's judgment of me or of a situation has nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. So that's my get out of jail free card, because the reality is if someone's going to judge me for participating in a beauty pageant, then that's their choice. And that's cool. I respect and understand that, because they are entitled to their own opinions. The question is, am I going to judge myself and then I'm going to force myself to do something that I don't agree with? That's the bigger issue here.
Yeah.
And so when I, looked at that experience and turned it over in my hands, and thought about all the different angles of it, the reality is that I get to bring to it whatever I want, and I get to have the experience that I desire. I get to create that experience. And here's the reality. I met incredible women, a few of which just since our time together at that larger pageant have made significant changes in their careers and in their lives. And it's because of conversations that we had and time we spent together. And that wouldn't have happened. So here's what I love to do. I love to meet people where they are. I love to empower them to pursue the path that they feel most aligned with. I love to help them give themselves permission to do that. I love to help them look at their life in a really different way. And I do that wherever I go. It could be the grocery store or the Mrs. America pageant. And so for me, it was an adventure. It was an opportunity to push myself into realms of uncomfortability because I'd never done this before. And I really look at my life as a human experiment. All these emotions that I get to experience and what comes up, and then really getting into the weeds with myself around, well, what is this and why is this happening? And again, with that very central focus on, well, how can I feel the best right now? And how can I make my work feel amazing to me every single day? And if it stops feeling that way, then how can I make some shifts to make it feel better? So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. It's that judgment is just fear. It's projected fear. And when we're judging someone else, it's because we're not fully accepting where we are.
Well, this is definitely one of my growth areas, and I know a gift you will continue to bring to me. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question.
C, being in, having connected to a strong support network so that you're in community on your journey. You talked about some of the places where you have that, and even the community that you've built around you, in which you both support and serve other members, but you continue to get fed and supported by us as well.
Yep.
Anything else you want to share about how you approach being in community on your journey?
So I'm a member of a sweet little mastermind group with a bunch of amazing women up in Maine, which is a state right next door to us here in New Hampshire. And they are all fellow business women and have a myriad of different levels of business in terms of where they are in their businesses and the growth and the external success, in terms of following and all of that, down to where they are in their personal journeys, whether they're moms or not. And so we meet monthly, and that's a commitment we've all made. And we're actually going into, I think, our third year, almost, maybe 2.5 years. And it's beautiful, and to have that personal, intimate connection, to get together and to be able to hug each other, and just all of that has been profound. I have really beautiful friendships with women who are mamapreneurs, and some are former clients, some are friends. I think that's probably one of the most amazing gifts that leaving my corporate job gave me, was it opened up this entire world of other women who wanted very similar lifestyles and we just hold space for each other. We are there for each other. We use this app on our phones called Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie, and we just have these like deep soul chats. My best friend Rachel and I, she's down in Virginia, and we talk every day. We probably talk for almost an hour a day, just back and forth on Voxer in between, dropping on and off at school and in between client sessions here and there. And just, what are you working on today? What's going on today? Where are you? And some days, less, but I think just having that support and knowing that it's there has been absolutely transformational for me, and has helped me move through things so much more quickly than if I tried to just do it by myself.
Very cool. So Amber, the way that you approach community definitely stands out as one of the things that you have built around yourself to make you feel aligned and present and accomplishing the things that you want to in your life. What are some of the things that still feel like a challenge for you, or that you need to more consciously put in place to live your life?
I had this epiphany on Friday. I had a session with an energy healer that I work with, kinesiologist, and we sort of stumbled upon this trigger state, which the words that came together totally shocked me, but made so much sense. And it was that when I feel excited about something, I also feel simultaneous pressure. And I remember distinctly the moment of signing my first client in my business. Okay, this is so exciting. And oh my goodness, I now have to deliver everything I said I was going to deliver. And winning Mrs. New Hampshire, I got 2 steps into the victory walk, or whatever you would call that. And I thought, what do I have to do now? And so many moments in my life where I feel this intense excitement about something, a new opportunity. And then thinking, what does this mean? This feels like so much pressure. And the realization that is all self-imposed. Mm-hmm. And so I literally just became acquainted with this new revelation just last week around this excited and pressure thing. And so I've got a lot of work to do around it, but I also know that I'm someone who has struggled with anxiety much of my life. And that makes a lot of sense. Being a child of having something happen to me at a young age that I had no control over, and then having to witness adults struggle, adults that I love very much struggle, and not being able to do anything about it. And also having it be in response to something that happened to me, right? Taking ownership for that at a very young age has been something I've really had to work on with my therapist and with myself, and look at how that has come up, that theme has come up in different areas and aspects of my life. So as I said, I really like to look at overarching concepts like anxiety or depression or emotional states, and really dig in and ask myself, what is this really, and where is this really coming from? And the only way that I can start to even wade into that water is by making sure that I am taking care of myself, and I am really helping myself feel the most calm and present version of me possible. So that means, again, eating well, sleeping well, taking care of my daughter, and just really being present and playing with her and feeling like I'm, the best mom that I can possibly be. And let me say, that's a daily practice, right, Julie? Mm-hmm. It's a daily commitment. It's looking in the mirror every day and saying, this is the best I can do today, and being okay with it. So I think that's a place for further expansion, but also something that I know that my clients and the women that I work with struggle with mightily. And so I know that we're all in this together, and my unpacking of it and my commitment to witnessing it within myself and allowing myself to do the necessary work around it is only going to help me to serve in a bigger and broader way.
And for anybody listening who wants to follow you as you uncover more and more learning about this, what are the best ways for them to share in your reflections?
Definitely the best place is over on my email list. So at amberlilyestrom.com, you can sign up to get on my email list, and I send out blogs every week, and I talk about these things, and I talk about the stories that are happening in my daily life that are unfurling in alignment with being an entrepreneur. My podcast for sure. I do lots of, individual episodes as well, where I talk about different things that are going on. And then on Facebook, just Amber Lilyestrom is my business page. And I do Facebook Lives about this as well.
So I would encourage people who are feeling connected to all the things you're sharing to go ahead and do that and be part of, you're so generous, Amber, in being so intentional and reflective about your life and really offering it to others. So even if you're a mom listening and you're not an entrepreneur, I think you would really get a lot from it. We'd encourage you to check it out. And we'll again put all of those links in the show notes. We're getting close to the end of our conversation. And the last question, I just am curious, if you think about your life right now, what's a recent moment that feels like a snapshot of you living your epic life?
I just posted this yesterday on Instagram. That's another great place to follow me. And it's just my name over there. And I took this selfie of Ani and I, and we had just gotten back from the pool, and, I had no makeup on, and we were just like on the couch. She had peanut butter and jelly all over her face. And it was just this moment of, this is it. Like this right here, this moment, this is it. I've intentionally chosen to make Monday days where it's just me and Ani, and I'll work when she's napping, but I don't have to work during the day. And I chose that, I crafted that, and it's not without nerves, in designing that, but knowing that this is what's going to be best for us. And the realization that, getting your kid to the pool in a 20-degree day, getting her showered after and cleaned up, her hair brushed, in clothes, back to the house to have lunch, to get down for the nap, like, it's so tiring. And I only have one child. And so I know the moms are saying, preach. Yes. These things can be so exhausting and also so beautiful, absorbing every little ounce of her 3-year-old self and, what this is and how tiring it can be to help your kid just put her shoes on. And so for me, living my epic life around that is being in the brutal, as Glennon Doyle Melton says, the brutal struggle of it all. It's triumphant, and it's not glamorous, and it's also everything I've ever wanted. And to just know that and remind myself of that when I get frustrated or I'm tired, and say, what is this really about? And just, again, it's consciously choosing to be present in this life, the one that I have the blessing and the gift of living. And that right there is 100% living my epic life.
Beautiful. I connect to so much of what you just said. So before we move into our closing acknowledgments and takeaways, whoever I have on the podcast each week, I invite you to offer a practice or a product or service. If you have something that is a fit that you think will enrich all of us in living our lives in our epic way, what would you, and I also just want to say that I really do pay attention to these, and they have enriched my life already in so many ways. So what do you want us to focus on?
So this came to me when I was really focusing on what I wanted to share in closing in this conversation. And this is something that I've done recently, and it has made a profound shift. And it's simply paying attention to the use of the word just in your vocabulary, and how many times we say, well, if I could just get this podcast live, or if I could just launch my business, or if I could just get another client, or you could just get enough money to do X, or if my child could just listen to me, where are the places where you're using that word? And when that word comes up, I want you to stop, and I want you to just look at the situation in which you are using that word, and how choosing differently in that moment and saying, my life is right here. It's not just anything. It's right here. And to just revel in all of that. I just use the word just. To revel in all of it. It's tricky. But I know that we use it as a qualifier in so many ways, and it's very limiting. So when you find yourself using the word just, or I'm just doing this little podcast, or I just have this little business, why? Why are you using that? And how could you eliminate that word from your vocabulary? And what emotional response would shift with the elimination of using the word just?
Okay. I accept the challenge. I'll be sharing back what that impact is.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear.
Thank you. So I'm really grateful. Thank you for giving us this time and for showing up in such an open way. I know even the first question was a deeply personal one for you, and the way in which you answered it with your whole self and just the generosity of it was such an example of what you said your purpose is, which is speaking your truth and having that impact others. So I'm really taking with me this commitment to speak my truth. I also love the visual image of really being where your feet are and being fully aligned with who you are and how you want to live your life, and how that enables you to come home to yourself and to the people who you love. So I'm going to be carrying that imagery and that metaphor for me as I continue my journey on my epic life.
Beautiful.
What do you feel like are some takeaways you got from being in this conversation on the podcast today?
I think I'm just reminded that no matter what, we're never going to feel ready. That the idea of ready is a myth. And I think about your story and the gift that I've had of being a part of it and watching you take these leaps. And I'm reminded of my moment of going into labor and literally driving myself to the hospital in labor and thinking, I want to drive anywhere else than where I have to go right now, because I know how much this is going to hurt and how scary this whole thing is going to be. And I had no idea what was in store for me. But it's this notion that we're never going to feel ready. It's such a myth, and being willing to step into it anyway, no matter what that is, because it feels aligned, because it feels like the next right thing, can change the course of history, not just our lives individually, but it can change generations. And I encourage everyone listening, and I'm giving myself this heartened challenge to keep going and to trust that you are being led on the path that was intended for you. And there's a bigger purpose at stake here than maybe just the small things that you can see in your mind's eye right now, but there's so much more.
Great place to end. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming along with me on this episode of the Mother's Quest podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something that will help you live your epic life. If you'd like to get show notes and learn more about how to join the Mother's Quest community, head over to mothersquest.com. And while you're there, I would love it if you would follow the prompts to subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, and help us spread the word. I want to end with some words to light the way on your quest. Seize the day, love your people, honor your gifts. Until next time.